You are about to opt in to Monerotopia, a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now. Whoops.
What happened?
No, we're fine. I forgot to put on the camera. I stopped the camera. Hello. How do you do? Hello, my beautiful viewers that are watching us.
Don't worry, we can't actually see you.
We can't see you.
Yeah, these Friday shows, I don't know. I think people are just confused because they're used to them being Saturdays, right? So
yeah,
that's what but we can't always do them Saturday morning, guys. We got other things going on, unfortunately.
Other things going on.
Tomorrow we're going to, what is it called?
It is called that thing.
We went to a libertarian convention last week in New Jersey. This is a
Take Human Action.
Take Human Action tour. Yeah. That's in New York City.
Yeah, the Blockchain Center in New York City, Manhattan. Upper, I guess, West Side, right?
Yeah, so come on out if you're around. Come hang. I think it's free. Is it free, or do they sell the tickets?
I think they are selling the tickets.
Are they? I'm
not sure. Actually. So
they asked us to post it on our meetup, so I think it might be free. I don't know.
Yeah, it's in our meetup.
Should be cool. Bunch of hardcore libertarians hanging out, spreading the good word of liberty.
Yeah, that's.
I think the gist of it is they're trying to help get candidates, libertarian candidates, on board to run in local elections. I think that's what the tour is all about, which is cool. So should be fun. We'll be there with coffee.
We'll be there at 9 a.m. or we'll be there. Yeah,
talking up Monero as always.
Yeah, lots of talking. Well, you want to talk about last week's event that we went to in New Jersey quickly? I guess.
I mean, not much to say. It was awesome, right?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Dan O'Neill. Dan O'Neill invited us. He's an amazing host. He took care of us, right? He was very accommodating. They had fantastic food there, by the way. They had a local Italian chef that retired from some really good restaurant in the area that Dan sourced to make all the food. So we feasted. We sold 6 bags of coffee.
Yeah, we sold a lot of coffee. People were loving the coffee.
And we just had, as always, amazing conversation. Whenever we go to these libertarian things, it's just endless convos. We have Dan Taxation is Theft. Speaking of libertarian, Dan Taxation is Theft as our special guest today. But I'm sure he would agree. That's part of the whole libertarian thing. It's a lot of talking because people have a lot of things to say, right? Everybody's trying to get it all out there, get the information out there. So it's intense when we go to these things, right?
Yeah, it's intense. But
we're trying to tell people about Monero. They're trying to tell us about the Liberty project that they're interested in. But it's great for exchanging information, and more so than anything else, it's amazing for meeting people that actually align with our liberty-loving values. And it's always a fun, genuine group, and we always end up making new friends. So it's very cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of interesting people.
And they're local to New Jersey, so I'm sure we'll be hanging out with them more often.
Yeah, it wasn't too far. It was only an hour and 15, but it wasn't that bad. Now this one's in Manhattan, but it'll be a lot of fun.
This one's in Manhattan. It's on the west side, which is you might as well be
on
the west side of the world.
But whatever.
We're out here in Queens. That's as far as you can get from Queens while still being in the city.
That is true. But I guess before we move on, let's just quickly talk about the new people.
Oh my God, dude! This conference
just keeps adding up and up.
It's diesel.
Yeah,
I wish I could just put somebody else in charge at this point, and we could just sit back and enjoy it ourselves. I mean, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be epic. Lots of people
Lots of speakers.
We didn't. We added Peter Todd. Did you put him up there yet?
Yes, he's there.
Oh, you already put him up.
Yep.
All right, cool. Yeah, Peter Todd.
We got Susie
Uri
Dawson
Bednar.
Yes.
Wait, Susie. I can't see
Dawson. Susie Dawson from Panquake.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, her lightning talk.
Well, she's gonna be remote though, right?
Yeah, that's a remote.
Yeah.
There are a few remotes.
Peter Todd's gonna come in person.
yeah.
Uri is gonna come in person. Peter's trying to get me because we offered to, you know, we're reimbursing speakers for the travel and whatnot. But Peter's trying to get me to reimburse him with Bitcoin Lightning, and I obviously want to pay him. You know, he wants half in BTC Lightning and half in Monero. I'm like, come on, bro. Just like,
I'm sure
what
it's
are you
like
doing?
a long
Like he's trying, so he could tell everybody that we like. He knows he'd rather receive Monero for these purposes. It's a no-brainer. But he's forcing me to pay him in Bitcoin. Like these Bitcoiners, man, through mandate, through fiat, he's forcing me to pay him in Bitcoin. But I'll bend because I want Peter to be there. So whatever you want, whatever he wants, I'll do. But we don't even use. I've never used Bitcoin Lightning. Right, not that you know, not for any reason other than, you know, we live in a Monero world. It serves our purposes. It's digital cash. It's everything we need. You know, we receive payments in other cryptos when that's all they have, right? Like we have some like random dash,
well, we have there's
right? Like from going to like
these
events.
Selling,
some people just want to pay in Bitcoin Cash.
Bitcoin Cash. There was Dash. There was Ethereum.
Never Bitcoin, like never just BTC, right?
No,
Bitcoin Lightning,
Bitcoin
but
Lightning,
we don't have. Yeah. But really, that's not even requested.
Well, no, there was this one guy that tried to pay in Bitcoin, and he was like, "Wow, such high fees to send whatever for a cup of coffee or something." And then we were like, "Well,"
some guy who just like was using his Bitcoin for the first time after buying it maybe years ago or something, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, conferences, it's going to be amazing.
It's blowing up. We're very excited because there's a lot of speakers. A lot of people have reached out to speak.
But yeah, only 1 month away, guys. So all that we really want from you, if you're looking to help, is spread. Oh yeah, adoptionality. Look at that.
Yeah, look how beautiful it looks. Keep adding more.
We have more too.
Monero Dance, want to add. Crypto Signature. He's going to be selling necklaces.
How about the guy who's selling virtual like server space and stuff? Did we add him?
Not yet. Waiting for logos and
stuff. We have IVPN, so you could buy your VPN services with Monero directly, anonymously. We have this guy that I forget the name of his company. We'll be adding it, where you could buy virtual, servers.
Oh, Servers Guru.
Servers Guru.
Servers Guru. Yeah,
he accepts Monero. You can purchase all those things anonymously and domains, I believe, anonymously through him. We have different wallets. We'll be, I think, adding a few more wallets as well. And yeah, it's gonna
be Monero land.
It's gonna be Monero land. And then we have the marketplace. We haven't even really showcased that on here, but we're gonna have an entire like bazaar. It's not gonna be like 3 vendors. It's gonna be like 30 vendors, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of vendors.
There's gonna be
in addition to all these
people there selling like craft mezcal, people selling tacos, people selling handmade leather goods. I don't even know. It's gonna be
soaps, shampoos, whatever you want.
Yeah. And it's a nice marketplace. The woman that runs it, like, she really puts a lot of care and thought into it. She like curates who the vendors are. So it's going to be like quality too. And we're going to onboard all of them to Monero. She's agreed to essentially get the vendors to do this. Obviously, she can't force them. She's not looking to force them, but she sees no reason why they're not all going to agree. Especially because they'll be getting more business that day if they do so. And we told them, we told her we would buy out their Monero at the end of the day if they want to, trade it in. If they're living off these payments and they really can't afford to just hold Monero on the side, we will buy them out. That's it.
Really
let's move on, right? Because DGoon is limited in time, and we got our special guest waiting.
Let's do this, but
let's do it.
Yeah, buy your tickets today if you still have it. But let's move on to the dev segment.
Oh, one thing we should note though is we have the virtual conference ticket.
Yes, we have the virtual conference tickets. So buy those too.
So if you can't show up in person, you could show up virtually. You could participate in the Q&A. We're going to figure out how to make that work. And the audio visual should be a lot better this year than last year. We have like a whole Sunita's looking at me. Will it not be better? Is there something I don't know?
I'm just
I mean, we're
laughing.
putting a lot of money into it, so it should be good. Should be legit. And we have somebody who's helping us run that. So
Exciting.
spread the word, guys.
Spread
That's
the
the one.
word.
If you could do anything for us, it's spread the word. Spread the word. Get people attending either in person or virtually.
All righty, let's move on.
Let's do it.
And now for the Monero development segment.
Got a little
What?
nasally in that. You sound a
Yeah,
little
that's
like-
when I was sick when I did the audio. What? You gotta switch it up. Look how picky he is. Jesus Christ. How's it going, DGoon?
It's going pretty well. Is my audio okay?
Yep, your audio sounds
What's
great.
going on,
Okay.
man?
Yeah, it's going pretty well.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you for taking the time. quickly
Yeah,
to,
I love this new segment, man. You're doing an amazing job on this. Thank
Thank you so much. I'm glad you guys enjoy it.
yeah, thank you for sticking with it. Appreciate it. I know people out there appreciate it too. It's really good info.
Oh, thanks. But today we just want to go over. Sorry, you want to talk about something? I don't want to just hop into it.
No, I said take it away.
I
Take it
saw
away.
I saw you lurking in like the research groups and the Monero dev groups. I see you asking questions there, which is awesome. What is like currently being discussed and talked? Have you kept your eye on that? Like, I think there was like a research meeting this week.
Oh yeah, it was the research meeting was really cool. I wasn't there to catch it live, but I know Sarang showed up.
What
Oh,
happened?
we lost you.
What happened? Shit.
No.
Wait, you lost me now?
Okay,
Oh,
now,
now
you're
you're
fine.
back.
Now you're back.
Oh, okay. But
You
yeah,
said Sarang showed up.
Yeah, Sarang was there, which is really cool to see him regularly. I don't know if he's there regularly, but first one I've read when he's there. It's really cool. They just talked about some like very experimental technology. They talk about just entertain. Someone wrote a paper talking about improving bulletproofs, and they pretty much had the writers of the paper come to the research group and talk about the paper a little bit. It was a little rough because the paper wasn't like public, so like I couldn't read it. But I believe Sarang read it and asked them some questions about it. Just very experimental, very early conversations, nothing solid. Just really cool research they were talking about.
Awesome. And that's what inspired you to talk about bulletproofs today?
Oh, actually, no. The recent funding for Bulletproof literally just got funded. I believe yesterday, maybe this morning or like last night. The last funding for the audit just got pushed through.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I can.
Yeah, give us the rundown.
Yeah, so basically, Monero has had. Let me go with the next slide. So Monero bulletproofs. What is a bulletproof? You might ask. Actually, talking about that. The reason I talk about this is because literally Monero raised 16,500 USD. Of course, it was in the form of XMR, but that's like the pegged rate they use to fund the audit of Bulletproof Plus, essentially. So it's a lot of money put into this. I believe Sarang is going to also be working on this via CipherStack, I believe. And so there's a lot of money put into this. So it's really cool tech. Monero has had Bulletproof before, but since this one got funded recently, I think it just came through this morning. I want to talk a little bit about what bulletproofs are in general and why we spent so much money on getting these audited. So,
sweet. Yeah, I remember it was a really big deal when bulletproofs initially got added, and like a tremendous amount of efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, beautiful, and they're still talking about being used for other things also in Monero moving forward, which is really cool field of study. But like, what is a bulletproof in general? A bulletproof just pretty much is a tool they use to help hide the amounts. For a moment, in Monero, the amounts weren't hidden on the blockchain. You would pull from a different pool, so the exact amounts you spent weren't really hidden. But when Monero got Ring CT, the amounts became hidden. But it was a big issue because Ring CT took up a lot of space because it hides the amounts and it does a bunch of other stuff also. So pretty much bulletproofs came along and they were used to help hide the amounts and save space also. And like I said, it was introduced. Bulletproof, the original one, was introduced in October 2018, and then over time, bulletproofs have been attributed for helping give an 80% drop in Monero transaction size, which is 80% is crazy. So bulletproofs are pretty awesome, and that's just a very high level of what a bulletproof is. So Monero has gone through Bulletproof, which is the original paper, Bulletproof Plus, and then Bulletproof Plus Plus is the one that's getting audited right now by CipherStack, or in the pipeline to get audited.
Sweet. Yeah, we had Benedict Buns on Monero Talk. I'm looking right now. It was 4 years ago.
Oh wow, I might have watched that one
It was
actually.
like a few weeks after he came up with it. Yeah, so that's
Oh yeah, I did watch that one actually. Yeah.
I recommend going to check that one out. It was a classic.
Yeah, I honestly feel like you have so much content on Monero Talk. I've binged it for hours. It would be very helpful if we had like a website that like
Breaks it down.
sort of catalog that I can. Yeah.
Right. Shit. So you need to add that to the list. You're the stink eye over here.
Because it's a lot of content. I mean, one podcast a week for what, since 2016?
2 podcasts.
No, 20 late 2017, 2018. Yeah.
Like, it's actually overwhelming amount of content. It's hard. I try to find it on Spotify, which is like you have to just scroll for days and stuff, and then like space is kind of faulty for playback. But yeah, Doug and not just Doug, the Monerotopia team has done a lot of great work.
Yeah, you're part of that now, man.
You're part of that.
But yeah, just to demonstrate how important bulletproofs are, I'm going to go to a slide next. And I know it's a big sin to not post the Y values, but this is just a graph. The red is going to be Monero's blockchain size. So you can ignore the yellow. It was on this Bitcoin size, so ignore the yellow. But right now, at the beginning, if you look at 2014, this is when Monero first got adoption, first came into creation, and you can see a line here. If you look somewhere around 2017, you're going to see a large spike in the transaction rate, and that is when we got ring CT without bulletproofs, essentially. So the blockchain size increased a lot in a very relatively short time because we were hiding the amounts, but we weren't using an efficient range proof such as bulletproof. Well, something not as efficient as bulletproof. And then you can see it teeters off here around the time that we got bulletproofs plus, or bulletproofs. And then over time, the Monero blockchain has been getting more efficient over time. It's been leveling off here and getting more and better upgrades. So if anyone says that scaling is a problem with Monero, Monero's getting like not exponentially, but very much more efficient. The scaling is getting a lot better, and it's just amazing the tech that's coming out.
That's a fantastic chart, man. You made that?
No. This is from Monerotopia.net. No, I didn't make that. It's actually a live update of the site. They have a lot of great skills, a lot of great charts. I can drop in the notes for you.
I know the site you're talking about. Yeah.
So you can literally see, if you look around here, when we got ring CT, that big uptick, and when it starts to fall off is when we got more adoption of the bulletproof schemes, and it levels off a little bit more, and bulletproof has got more efficient. So it's just really cool to actually see a graph for that.
Right, like so if we didn't get bulletproofs, we would have like blasted through Bitcoin in terms of blockchain size.
Yeah, they probably would have come up with something like something more efficient than the current range proofs that.
But look how fast it with the size of the chain is growing pre bulletproofs. It was really vertical.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Yeah. So got bulletproofs and things got a whole lot better. I believe other people like bulletproofs are a very large academic subject also, and they're really cool. And you can do different things with them, such as the next slide. Like you asked about the MLR research. These were the people that they interviewed. And once again, I want to reiterate, this is like really early. Not like it's not like they're like, oh, we're going to use it. It's super, super early. They're like, hey, we just want to talk to you guys about your paper. So that's what happened at the Monero Research Lab meeting. And this one actually improves upon bulletproofs by using different cryptographic methods inside of it. So that's one method that Monero is exploring moving forward. Just an idea about improving bulletproofs. So better bulletproofs equal better scaling, which equals we can do bigger ring sizes, each equals better privacy, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I'll try to reach out to these guys to do a Monero talk.
Oh yeah, they were probably really cool. I was warned by, I believe, not warned, but they just put an asterisk on it by Rucknum that the research isn't as clear or as solid as other research because the paper isn't public. So he said some things about that. So you can check the chat. I don't want to misquote him. But yeah, they seem like really nice people. They answered questions. Sarang had a conversation with them. I wasn't really, I'm not at the level of them, but it seemed like I had a great conversation around this. They probably would really enjoy it.
Yeah, and it looks like they're out of some, out of Italy, right? Some university in Italy or something.
I believe so. I could be mistaken. I can drop the link here, but yeah, You can review the what Rucknam said about the paper in the chat also. Really cool tech though. Really nice guys also, or people.
Yeah. Fantastic to see, man. Like you said, I mean, for anybody that says like Monero won't be able to scale, there's ignoring reality. I mean, there's kind of like new breakthroughs happening.
Yeah, I mean, like 80% drop in is just not crazy. But yeah,
Sweet.
And like I said, you want more papers? The Monero Research Lab keeps like literally a host of papers you can study. And like I said, Doug was talking about the Monero workshop meetings. They're really awesome. You can find them on the Monero or the Meta Monero GitHub. They have the meeting logs there and all that good stuff also. It's really great stuff, really cool stuff.
Sweet. Let's post these links. We should post.
Oh yeah, I'll give them to you right now. But yeah, any questions?
Yeah, no, great job, man. As always, great job. I recommend people, follow along. Go into those chat logs. I don't always. In fact, I don't do it all too often, but when I do, I never regret it. Like you just pick up on so much information when you hear it coming directly from the source, from the devs and the researchers. It's really good stuff. All right, man.
All righty.
Fantastic job.
I think he muted
Did we lose him?
We lost.
Okay.
I think he muted himself.
DGoon, thank you. We know you got to go.
Yeah,
we will move it along.
Thank you so much for joining. And we'll talk to you soon.
Adios.
Bye-bye. Hold on.
What do we got next?
Let's move on to the price report, my friends.
It's hot in here.
I feel fine. It's because all the layers. All right, let's do this.
The Monerotopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Local Monero. Avoid using KYC exchanges. Buy and sell Monero directly for fiat, peer-to-peer.
Hello.
Bawdy, what's up?
Guys.
How's it going?
Well, it's really good. How about yourselves?
Good. Happy Friday. Thank you for joining us this Friday.
See, I'll keep busy, man, all the time. Y'all are heading to conferences all the time, hosting
I know.
conferences.
I can't keep up with this one, I swear.
We don't know how to say no. But
I just love the libertarian conversation so much.
Yes.
One life to live, and we want to spend that life at a libertarian conferences for some reason. It is fun, man. It is. You know it, right?
Oh, yeah.
You hang among
good people.
those people.
I remember in 2016 when I first started going to conferences, Anarchapulco was really the first one I went to. And it was a shock that other people in the real world actually existed that thought like I did, because normally you talk to people and it's just like their eyes glaze over.
Right. Yeah. In your immediate circles, right? Like you don't really find those people, but now. And like we were saying last show, I mean, the crossover with Monero, with digital cash and the libertarian, movement makes so much sense. Right. And so we're making headway. I mean, feel like Monero is a lot more known now than it was from when we first started attending these things. So making progress.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of progress across all fields, whether that's like the freedom movement starting to embrace Monero, or whether that's even normies starting to embrace the freedom movement. We definitely are making progress on all fronts. So it's really great.
Exactly. How are we doing with price though? What's going on with
price
that?
Price is looking good. So we had a confluence today where we closed the weekly, the monthly, and the quarterly candles, along with options expiry on basically the markets across the board. So it's actually a pretty big close. And what I wanted to see, I tweeted about this yesterday, I wanted to see general positivity, not excessive positivity, but a general strong close across the board. And that should set us up pretty nicely for more gains here in the weeks ahead. So we've got the Monero chart here, but maybe we should go to the stock market first, because that kind of gives us a little bit of a clearer picture here. So we'll start with the NASDAQ. Basically, we're kind of in this upward channel. We've broken significantly above, retested, found support at what was previously resistance, and off to the races. Now, the thing that I really liked seeing today was we finally broke through this horizontal area of resistance where like that was the support, then it was resistance, a little bit of resistance there. And then that was like maintaining resistance for really the past month or so. So it was a really nice thing that we finally broke through that. I've been waiting to break through this for quite a while. it was hard for me to believe that this run was just over and that we were going to go back to the downside, but we seem to have problems breaking through. But as of today, really starting right around towards Wednesday, Thursday, but as of today, we convincingly broke above it. And if we go to the daily, you can see that we basically, we confirmed the close above it. So this is another thing that I like to do. I picked it up from Gareth Soloway, got to give credit where credit is due. When you're trying to break a resistance or you're going to break down through support, you want to check out the daily candles. And so right here, that horizontal line is important. So yesterday, Thursday, we closed above it, but then today on Friday, closing above it again. That's a really good thing. That gives you confidence, confirmation that this probably is a real break. This isn't just, it's not just a fake out. So another thing we can do is we're going to look at some monthly candles today because we've got the monthly close and the quarterly close. So it's kind of a big candle here. And let's mute some of those. So overall, like this looks nice. This looks a lot like reversal. It looks at least kind of like reversal. It definitely has the impression that we could keep going up. So that's the NASDAQ. The S&P looks just a little bit different. It took a little bit longer for the S&P to break out because of all the banking troubles, and the banks are all rolled into the S&P. Not all of them, but the banks never show up in the NASDAQ. They're always in the S&P. So it also broke out the S&P. Let's go to the monthly. So overall, what we're looking at here, the point of sowing stocks is that it's basically risk on. The mentality of the market right here is risk on. So this is a good thing. I do expect that we should continue seeing gains in the stock market. Let's go ahead and take a break here and go to Monero because that's really what we want to see, right? So we're still in this channel here, this long-term bear market channel, but we are pressing up against it. And probably you've heard me say before that this is exactly how you break resistance. So we've got our lines here, right? You touch it again. You kind of almost broke through it, wanted to, came down to a very natural support level. And then we're pressing up here again, like in quick succession, kind of like bop, bop. So, I mean, you very much expect the next thing that's going to happen here is we're going to break this resistance and then start moving towards the upside. That doesn't mean it has to happen immediately. It doesn't have to happen next week. Although next week, I do want to see broad follow through in the markets. Like we're not really at a completely confirmed breakout here in terms of the stock market. So yes, we've had 2 days close above a significant resistance level, but we still want to see follow through next week, and that should give the market confidence. I see a lot of people out there that are still very worried. They're not quite sure. A lot of people have been hesitant, and I'm sure that expiry, the options expiry that happened or happens today, and these monthly, weekly, quarterly candle closes that happened today were probably, I have to imagine a lot of players, especially institutional money, was probably sitting out of the market waiting to see what happens. So if we get follow through next week, if we get follow through next week, that should set things up very nicely. So let's go ahead and take a look at the monthly on Monero, the monthly candles, just to get a feel for what it looks like. This line down here, I wouldn't regard that as entirely valid. It's just kind of me connecting these two bottom points, and you can kind of see, like, you could easily make the line look like that, or you could kind of make it look like that. So it's really, maybe I'll just delete that. But one thing that you can see very clearly here is this rising triangle. So coming back to these points right here, this triangle does seem to make a lot of sense. And I mean, hopefully we're going to do something that starts moving towards the top side. If we get broad positivity and strength through crypto and all markets, and that's a real possibility. It looks like we could be setting up for a real possibility for continued strength and some big gains across the board. So if that happens, I really would love to see Monero getting back to $300, maybe even another top. I mean, the way this formation is, you would expect at some point to visit the top of this, probably touch this line one more time down here at some point, and then finally break that. We're probably still looking at another, at least a year, probably 2 years before that actually happens. The ratio, Bitcoin, XMR versus Bitcoin. We'll go ahead and look at the monthly on this one as well. So familiar chart. We've seen this before, big sideways triangle. We broke through it. We're basically, this bottom area here is still acting as support for us. That should be a pretty strong support. I'm not too worried about breaking down below that at the moment. Hopefully we never break down below that, but we just have to see, right? We should be gaining against Bitcoin over the long term fundamentally. I do believe that fundamentals over very long time frames play out and matter. Anyways, we are looking at this line right here, and I do think the most likely scenario, since I think the market is going to be going up, I think the direction is up still. That probably means more leverage getting put into the crypto market at some point, and that probably means that the ratio is going to take a bit of a dip and play in this area. So just expect that. Prepare yourself mentally for it. Other than that, there's not too much exciting going on with the other parts of price. We've got there was a bunch of longs that got opened up last week, then they closed, but we're still net long. We're still well into the net longs, and then we can take a look at the price divergences. Like we talked about, I just can't make sense out of some of those big movements that happened over here. It seems like they're accumulating. Maybe they're preparing for the money run, but maybe they're doing something else. I don't know. But at any rate, we're basically kind of oscillating. We spent the past week oscillating lower, a little bit higher, a little bit lower. So nothing too exciting about this chart or too notable for the past week here.
But we're heating up. We're heating up.
Well, yeah, I mean, overall, the markets, look like they're heating up.
What do you think, man? What's your best guess for price of Monero on Cinco de Mayo, first day of Monerotopia?
Oh, man, hang on. Let me pull out my crystal ball. My proprietary statistical crystal ball.
Let's see how close. This is it. Make your guess right now. Let's see.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the daily. That'll be easier to see. All right, we'll go to the 8 hour, actually.
What's your guess? Let's let Bawdy guess first, and then we'll...
All right, so here's Cinco de Mayo. That's the vertical line I just dropped.
Guru over here.
No, I'm not.
I'm going to say, I would say 186, but I want to be more optimistic than that. So let's just go for 202.
Wow.
What are we at right now? We're at
currently at 158.
Okay.
So Cinco de Mayo, I'm going to call for $202.
Wow.
What was your 186 guess based on? How'd you?
It would have been this spot right here, the top of the recent breakout.
Oh, okay.
So basically, kind of break out of this, maybe retest it, and then have a nice run, something like that.
Wow.
And then with the Monerotopia effect, it will take it up a little extra to 212. I got you.
Monerotopia, something like that. And
shit, that sounds pretty
let's
good.
See. And then maybe over here in September, the Mt. Gox coins.
I say we hit 239 by weekend end.
Wow.
Okay.
239.
Totally random.
All right, I'm gonna put
probably below. Who knows?
Right, we're gonna add some.
Guys, it doesn't matter. We don't care about the price. It still works, no matter what.
All right, there's an arrow with my call. And I'm sorry. What did you say, Doug?
By saying 239 by the end of that weekend.
239. All right, we're gonna put these arrows up here, and we're gonna leave them. And I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. Shit.
237. 239. There we go.
Nita, what's your guess?
I'm gonna go in the middle.
You should do prices right rules and go like 203,
Yeah, you should go super low. You should be like 115.
All right, so 220 for Sunita is where we got her.
Yeah, that's literally what I
Okay.
All right.
All right, man.
On air.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheerios.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll be seeing
Thanks,
you
guys.
in a couple
Yeah,
weeks.
we'll be seeing you soon. Looking forward to it.
Oh, hey, let me put out one more thing. Guys, be on top of gold. Gold could be doing good things here. Just know that there could be breakout here. So if you were thinking about picking up some gold, I say you definitely keep an eye on that chart. It could be ready to break out.
All right. Maybe I'll buy some tomorrow with Monero at the Libertarian. I bought gold backs with Monero last week. The gold backs.
Those gold backs look so cool.
They're really cool.
Backs. We're trying to get them to come down to Monerotopia, and sell gold backs for Monero there.
That would be boss.
Yeah, they're really pretty.
Yeah, I love them.
They're like
my
beautiful.
daughter loves them.
Yeah.
She's like, screw Monero. Give me those gold backs.
Too funny.
All right, buddy.
All right, thank you,
Cheers.
Bawdy.
Buy gold. Buy gold.
Buy gold.
This is not investment advice.
All right, thanks,
Bye,
Bawdy.
guys.
Have a good weekend. See you next week.
You
Cheers.
too.
Bye.
Later. Peace.
Oakley dokley.
All right.
Let's move on to the guest segment. Boop, boop. The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
Everyone, song wise.
All righty. As he's like,
Dan,
Jen.
what's up, man? You're on mute.
Hi, Dan. You're on mute. Sorry, I muted you.
Hey, sorry. How's it going? Oh,
Good. How are
No,
you?
Thanks for waiting, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
yeah, all good. How's it going?
Good, man. Good. We're chilling. We're chilling. You know, we're just working on the conference, balancing the day
I don't know about
job.
chilling. There's no chilling. There's
Yeah.
no chilling
I just
at
use
all.
that
I
word.
say the same thing. There's no chill at all.
Yeah.
Like there's
I
no
feel
chill
like,
at all.
sorry if my eyes are a little bloodshot. Like I haven't slept in like an entire week.
Oh my goodness. Whoa. Why?
But you're chilling, right?
Yeah, but I'm chilling. Nothing much going
God,
on.
enough,
Everything's good.
liars.
What do you have going on? We know what we have going on. We the conference and all that stuff. What are you working on, man?
So I'm right now working on a book. It's I want to say it's halfway done, but like every time I turn around, there's like more that I have to read. And I've been going through court cases and I've got like 20 hours of C-SPAN footage from 97, I think, that I need to sit through of IRS testimonies. Insane amount of stuff I keep like bumping into, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to put something about this in the book. So I got to, of course, go back and read everything. But yeah, the book is just basically everything about the tax system and how everything the government does is a scam and a fraud, and we're all being cheated out of our money and our rights and everything else. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Taxation is theft.
Exactly.
So what's like the different type of research you're throwing in there to make the point?
Okay, so a lot of this started from the idea that most Americans don't actually have to pay income tax because that's like the biggest scam. And this, when I first heard about this, like maybe 20 years ago, there's a lot of bad information out there, right? So I was going down the rabbit holes and I'm like researching and I'm like, okay, this is total BS, right? Yeah, and then this guy ends up in prison. But then I ran into somebody who had receipts and they're like, yeah, look, we're getting all the money back. The IRS is accepting our returns. And they basically figured out the right way to do things because the government is just like this massive bureaucracy. And what people have been trying to do is like fight the tax itself and say it's not constitutional and all these other things. But the reality is like, it is constitutional, just doesn't apply to anybody. And if you give them the right forms, they'll acknowledge that your income is not taxable. And they'll just basically give you your money back. So it's really bizarre.
Are you going to give a presentation on this at Monerotopia?
I absolutely can.
Yeah, yeah, please do, man. In more detailed form. What are these, what are these applications that you can fill out and things you can say to basically?
Well, it's not even that easy because like, okay, it used to be like, you get the W-4 when you get a job and like there used to be a box that said check here if you're exempt and they wouldn't withhold any money for the income tax. They'd still withhold the other stuff like Social Security. That box is gone now. Now you have to like read like page 3 of the instructions in like 2-point print where it says like, if you want to claim exempt, because they still have to give you the option. They're like, there's 2 boxes. They're like, write the word exempt between the 2 boxes. Like that's the instructions now, like no exaggeration. So there's no form. The problem is that like it's a bureaucracy and they kind of like, they leave that stuff out of the equation, right? Like the Declaration of Independence, it says, it says when the government becomes destructive to the ends of serving the people, we have the right to alter or abolish it. But they didn't really leave instructions. They left instructions for amending the Constitution, but not for abolishing it, right? So it's kind of like, is there a form I submit somewhere? Like, what?
In the abolish process now? Like,
yeah. Is there a waiting period? So yeah, it's really just a matter of navigating this. And there's been, like I said, a lot of people have gone to jail over it. But something that I really just blew my mind, and it's something you were talking about when you were introducing the show. About sorry, I forgot what it was, but you said something about like believing in things and how they're going to happen. And so funny thing is, no matter how ridiculous of a scam you think you found a loophole in that you don't have to pay the taxes, the 2 major charges that most people get, and I shouldn't say most people because like nobody even gets charged ever, right? It's like 2,000 people a year out of 100 million, 150 million filers. There's failure to file and there's evasion, and both of them are willful, which means, and there have been court cases where it's like, okay, what this guy believes is total bullshit, but he believes it, and where it was not
Nope.
will.
Right.
So it's really amazing. But I've read through all this stuff a dozen times. I've read it from different people, and yeah, there's little nitpicky things here and there, and like, you know, the people who do go to jail, you can figure out exactly, you know, where they messed up. But I'm a believer. This tax, I mean, it's still a free country, and we're just tricked into ratting each other out and saying like, oh, he made some taxable income. It's not really taxable, but the IRS is like, okay, somebody said it. We have testimony. Let's go take that guy's money. And it's just absolutely insane how the system works.
Well, what I don't get is like, you gotta, you know, fill out your tax forms at the end of the year, and pretty much, you know, you tell them what you think you owe. Meanwhile, it's like, they theoretically should already know what you owe. So it's like, you tell me what I need to pay, right? Like,
And
why am I?
That's the scam. Because if they had to tell you what you owed, it would be criminal. They'd be violating the law by telling you that money that you earned is taxable. So they can't do that. They'd have to go through your records, which would violate your Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights.
They can't do it.
They'd have to do all this stuff, and they can't. And the money's not taxable to begin with. So they'd be lying if they even if you said, like, you know, you're driving around in your new Mercedes and you're wearing your fur coats and everything. Like, even if you're doing that, they can't say it was from a taxable source, because they don't know, and it's not. So what they do is they rely on everybody just snitching each other out, your boss, your employer sending W-2s and 1099s and all this other stuff. And then the IRS is just like, oh, we have information. And then they send, if you don't file, they send you a bill. So it's insane. But this is like this whole, and it's funny because they like tongue in cheek say like, oh, it's voluntary. It's a voluntary tax system, voluntary compliance and all this stuff. And then like at the end of the day, they're like, but you have to do it. And it's like, okay, but kind of, but not really. It's tricky, but I don't want to say, like, to anybody listening right now, don't go out. This thing it doesn't want to say in my ear. Don't go out and think you can fight the IRS tomorrow. There's definitely a lot to it. And it took me like a good 20 years to really, really figure it out. And, you know, and that's based on, you know, hundreds of other people who have done a lot of research. So it's not something like that, but it's definitely something worth looking into for the future.
Not to mention they have guns now too. So watch out.
Okay. So here's an interesting fact. When they come to your house with guns, they're supposed to get a court order before they can take any property from you, but they'll come to your house and they'll say, here's the bill. Here's the notice of deficiency that you owe us money. Can we come in and take your stuff? And you can tell them to get off your property and go away. And they have, according to the Internal Revenue Manual, if you tell them to leave, they're supposed to leave. And if they want to get something, they have 10 days to go to a court and file for an actual court order to come back and take it. But here's the thing. This is like, you know, with, you might have heard, like, in the criminal justice system, 95% of all the cases like never go to trial. Like, everybody just takes the plea bargain. It's the same thing. Like, people come, like the IRS comes and they're like, could you please give us this? And everybody's just like, okay, here you go. Don't shoot me.
I'm not going to ask any questions. Just take
it's insane. And the banks will do that with your money without a court order. The banks will get this letter that says, I think you have some money that belongs to this person. Could you please send it to us? It's absolutely insane. I shit you not. And it says right on the back of the form. No, it doesn't, because they omitted that part. It has the code that says, if you look it up, this doesn't really mean anything unless it's signed by a judge, and it's not. So, but you know, whose side is the bank going to take?
What do you think this idea that you know, theoretically can't lose your Bitcoin in a boating accident, but you can lose your Monero in a boating accident? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but I say, like, why would you want to lose it in a boating accident if you don't have to pay taxes on it in the first place?
Sure. But it's hard to confiscate something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, like, even here's the interesting thing with Bitcoin. Like, I think, you know, if they can't get the keys, then sure. But if they know it exists, then they're gonna absolutely gonna try to tax it. Like, I mean, I'm sure if they could get to the point where, you know, like they're doing with the bank accounts, right? This is the interesting thing. People are like, that's a violation of my Fourth Amendment rights because they're into my bank. No, they're not into your bank account. They're into the bank's bank account. Like, your bank account is a joint account.
Right. It's not your money. It's right. Yeah.
Well, no, it's not even that. It's like the ledger does not belong to you. It's not like you wrote your accounting and then you stick it in a safe deposit box. It is a contract between you and the bank. They own the same half of the ledger. So so they're able to snitch it out. And with Bitcoin, it's the same kind of thing, right? If the IRS is like, well, we've been able to connect this wallet to this guy, let's see if there were any deposits of $600 or more that go into there. They can just look at that and say like, oh, we're gonna assess a tax on that. That's probably a little bit but that's probably a little bit wishful thinking for the IRS, because I think they need a third party to testify to it. But you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do you think, man? So, like, I often talk about that and say that, right? Kind of this worst case scenario where Bitcoin becomes this tool for governments to use to more perfectly tax and you know, obtain those taxes from their citizens, right? If everybody's using this completely open and transparent ledger,
yeah,
government that has the resources to trace and analyze, does it then just become this perfect tool for taxing?
Yeah, but I mean, it's worse than that, because you know, like there's like anti-money laundering laws and everything that say, you know, if you receive money that was used like that was, you know, raised from drug sales, and they catch some drug trafficker, right? Now it's not just like, oh, I have a dollar bill, where did it come from? I don't know. Now it's like, oh, like, you know, 50 transactions ago, that came from a drug dealer. And so now you're trading with, we're going to confiscate that, or you're trading with, you know, illicit funds. If you don't give it back to us, we can take you to jail. Like there's all kinds of weird scenarios that can come out of that. So yeah, it's
yeah, it makes people responsible for the history of their money, right?
Yeah, which is insane.
Shit, man. What do you think of the CBDCs? I mean, that's the, you know, do you think that's also a route towards that trying to, you know, more perfectly tax people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, if the government makes it, of course, they're going to put some security features in there that are, you know, like, you know, tracking. And here's the thing, right? They're going to sell people on it. They're going to be like, oh, it's safer because it comes from the government, and you know, oh, and it's more transparent, and you can see where the money comes from and everything else, and that's good because that's going to help us catch criminals and blah blah blah. And you have nothing to hide, so you have nothing to fear, right? And it's like that's the propaganda. You know, if they're really going to push it, that's the kind of stuff they're going to be telling us. And I always like to laugh at that one, because it's like, oh, you have nothing to hide. Well, go walk down the street with your pants down. Most people won't do that because they understand, like, okay, there's something that's private, and it's like, okay, you might not be buying drugs with your money, but like it doesn't matter. Some people do private things with their money, and they have a right to hide that, just the same way you have a right to wear pants when you walk down the street, instead of, you know, walking with them around your ankles.
Not that I wear pants when I walk down the street. But I get the analogy. For those that wear pants,
right?
Yeah, man, or just, you know, it's insane. I mean, anybody that says that is like, I don't know. They're not thinking things through. They're not realizing. I mean, the most extreme version of that, right, is like, all right, so why don't we put, you know, cameras and well, there's basically already cameras and microphones in everybody's home, right? But in such a way where the government can listen in all the time, right? Like,
right.
Don't
for your safety.
Yeah, for your safety.
Put video cameras in the bathrooms, right? Make sure nobody gets raped in the bathrooms.
Crime again. I mean, how are you not on board with that, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you have nothing to hide and you want a safe society, you should be totally fine with that.
Yeah. There was a great quote from somebody that said, so I'm terrible at quotes and names, but basically tyrants are always trying to use the public good as their justification for all their dirty deeds.
That's good. I thought you were gonna say, I think it was Snowden that said, saying you have nothing to hide. Shit, what was it? It's like saying saying you don't believe in privacy because you have nothing to hide is like saying you don't believe in free speech, or because you have nothing to say.
Because you have nothing to say. Yeah.
But I like yours better. Who said that? Do you know who said it?
I'm sure I have it written down somewhere, but I'd have to Google it.
One of the founding fathers.
Maybe. or like one of those like philosophers. What's his name? Tolstoy or something, maybe.
Oh, okay. Shit. You're reading Tolstoy, man? Damn.
Just the quotes.
a
Oh,
long
so
book.
here's a fun story I just learned about, like those Russian like novels that are like 1 million pages.
Yeah.
They were paid per word to write them.
Oh,
So
okay.
so they're like, okay, I'll make it really long.
Oh my god.
And now we could just ask Chat GPT to, like, you know, give me the
Right.
summarize it in one tweet.
Exactly.
It's kind of sad, but shit. Yeah, man. Thanks for jumping on today. What else do we have to look forward to at Monerotopia? You're not bringing wine down there, are you?
Are you the wine?
I might be able to bring like a bottle. I don't have a whole lot. I'm down in Mexico with you, sir. Or I'm down in Mexico right now. So
Oh, cool. Oh, okay.
tell us about the wine, though. What's the deal with the wine?
So the wine is Blood of Tyrants, which is why I know so many quotes about tyrants. Yeah, so we started this brand about 6 months ago. It's been doing really well. We're selling exclusively online, and we're about to grow this out into an energy drink. But it's not like one of those crazy chemical cocktails. It's a yerba mate tea base with natural sweeteners and everything, 0 calories, 0 sugar. So it's a really awesome drink. Get a good little energy buzz, and it's called Liquid Freedom, and it's going to be available soon. And it's what we're really trying to do is we're really trying to embody the spirit of freedom and free thought. And, you know, everything that Monero stands for in something that, you know, people can participate in with their daily life, something that, you know, we can bring this, like, it's like, yeah, you know, yeah, I'm all about free speech and free thought and everything. Let me go to the grocery store and pack my fridge with all kinds of corporate BS that's like made by these, you know, probably the same 2 corporations that own everything. And you know, they're using that money to steal our rights through governments and subsidies and all that other kind of stuff.
Couldn't agree more, man. That's what we do. That's what we do with the gratuitous. We were gonna try to add your wine, I think, right? We should maybe work on that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So at least people can, you know, just another avenue for them to buy your wine. Where does it come from? Where do the grapes come from?
From Northern California.
Sweet.
So yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's a really good wine. I was kind of torn on that because I was like, California. I grew up in California, so I know the government there well. We're probably on a first name basis. Yeah, so I was kind of like, California, but it was the best wine, so that's where we went.
Does it come from one farm? Or are you like sourcing multiple grapes?
Yeah, right now it's coming from one farm. So when we get bigger, we might go to more. We definitely did want to expand to like a white wine at some point, the Tears of Tyrants.
Well, because if we add it to gratuitous, so the whole thing with gratuitous is exactly what you said, right? It's about being able to buy quality goods direct from source, direct from the farmer, whatever it is, using Monero, right? Circumventing these third-party corps that just ruin all these products. But in addition to that, it's also being able to tip the people that make the product, right? So coffee, you can tip the farmers. If we add your wine, it'd be cool if we could hook up the workers where the wine's coming from with Monero wallets and add that gratuitous element. You think it'd be possible?
That would be awesome. Yeah, I think we can.
Awesome. You have like obviously you got a relationship with the
there's one thing which, and we have a workaround that we're working on, but as of right now, the website doesn't take Monero or any crypto because basically because of the tyrants that work for the government, and there's like 13 states that we can't ship to.
Well, we'll add you to gratuitous. They could place the order, and then we would just pass it on to you, and you can just ship the order. You know,
that's basically. So yeah, this is how stupid it is. We can't sell the wine. My company can't sell the wine because we don't have the license, but we can sell a gift card, and we can make that gift card automatically redeem itself.
We'll kind of do the same thing. So
these are the brilliant minds who are like, oh, let's just. Oh, sorry, my camera turned off. These are the brilliant minds who are like, oh, let's just ban spam email and that'll stop it. Like, this is the, and it's the same thing. Like, oh, let's just ban politicians from trading stock and that'll stop it. No, it's not. Like, they don't understand how any of this stuff works. But these are the laws that we have to work with, so we got to work around them the right way.
And you seem to be very creative with that. You seem to have a knack at being able to do those things.
Yeah, it's my mom always said I should have been a lawyer, but
It's not all it's cracked up to be.
No.
Awesome, man. Thank you for jumping on today. Anything else you want to bring up?
No, I'd just like to say taxation is theft.
Cheers to
His
that.
last word. I like that button.
It's the only button we got. We got to have.
Yeah, we have others, but they're like a womp womp.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't use that one.
imagine he clicked on the wrong one.
Dan,
Awesome.
man, thank you. What happened to your camera?
In the dark.
Funny story. It's actually because of taxes. So there's a tax on cameras. If they run longer than 30 minutes in Europe, it's considered a video camera, and there's a different tax they apply on it. So I had my DSLR hooked up, and for some reason, it usually doesn't do this because it's not actually recording. But for some reason, it's been turning off at 30 minutes. So, but yeah, you can thank your local tax.
Wait, are you
regime.
serious?
Yeah, no, that's a real thing. Oh yeah, if you like, Vans shoes have a little bit of felt on the bottom.
Okay,
That-
I did
they're-
not know that, but okay.
It's so when they import them, they can pay a lower tax because they're slippers, not shoes. It's insane. Like the tax schemes that they have are like it's so idiotic. And like, tomatoes are a fruit, right? Seeds on the inside.
Yeah.
But there was a Supreme Court case in, I think, 1890, and there was a tax on vegetables, and they were like, wait, we're missing out on all these tomatoes. So they took it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled, well, yeah, for the purpose of this tax, tomatoes are vegetables. And so now everyone thinks tomatoes are vegetables.
Oh, that's literally where that comes from.
Nix v. Hedden.
That's hilarious.
Look it up. Yeah, it's taxes are insane, and they like.
I'm excited to read your book, man. When do you think the book will be ready?
At this rate, it's gonna be a while. I hopefully in the next couple months I'll be able to send the first edition off for editing. So it's still got a few months to go, but hopefully by the end of the year. Hopefully sooner than that, but we'll see.
Word. All right, buddy.
Awesome.
Thanks so much. We'll see you. We'll see you in Mexico,
we'll
man.
See you in Mexico.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'll see you guys soon.
Oh, Dan, yeah, if you can try to spread the word to your peeps. Get it out there. Put the Monerotopia.com out there.
Absolutely.
We added a virtual ticket too, so people that can't make it down can watch it virtually.
Nice.
Yeah, and if you have anybody in Mexico that wants to come, let us know. Well,
I will see. I know they have they have a lot of crypto stuff going on Tulum, but I'm always outside of the city. So if I head in there, I'll see what I can find.
Ticket for locals. So if if you know people or whatever that are local that want to attend.
If you have I wonder, do you have any flyers or anything I can like drop off at some little shops?
Yeah,
around Tulum.
Yeah, we can figure that out. Yeah.
Okay.
Figure that out. Cool.
Yeah, because there's definitely a culture for that down here.
Awesome, man.
All right, cool.
All right, buddy.
We'll continue the conversation offline.
Cheers.
All
Thank
right,
you.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye. Take care.
And taxation is theft.
There you go. All right, let's move on to the news with Tony. The Monerotopia Weekly News segment is sponsored by iVPN. Use a VPN to help prevent your online activity from becoming a permanent record. iVPN encrypts your data and DNS requests so your ISP or mobile network provider cannot monitor or log your online activity. Purchase an iVPN service today anonymously with Monero. What? Look at that.
Tony.
Hello. How do you do?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Thanks for jumping on this Friday night. We appreciate it.
Of course. If my camera shuts down in 30 minutes, I'm doing it. That's crazy. That's crazy.
We got
That is crazy.
investment advice, tax advice. We don't offer any of that here.
Let's do screen.
What do you got, man?
Give me 1 second. Okay, perfect. So this week it's going to be focused on the US dollar. There's been a lot of things happening on that. So we're going to focus mostly on the US dollar. I have a couple videos that discuss the US dollar's global supremacy erodation. So we're going to watch them in a little bit. But basically, so the dollar has been the dominant financial tool of the world but now other countries are trying to destabilize it, like Brazil, Russia, China, and South Africa. So it's going to be very interesting in the next couple of months what is going to happen and how it's going to affect America. And I think the whole point is to destroy the dollar just to introduce the CBDC. I think that's what it comes to. So let's watch this video from CNN.
Here's my take.
Which is actually very interesting coming from CNN. We'll watch the first minute of it.
Here's my take. The most interesting outcome of the 3-day summit between Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping got limited media attention. Describing their talks, Putin said, "We are in favor of using the Chinese yuan for settlements between Russia and the countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America." So, the world's second largest economy and its largest energy exporter are together actively trying to dent the dollar's dominance as the anchor of the international financial system. Will they succeed? The dollar is America's last surviving superpower. It gives Washington unrivaled economic and political muscle. It can slap sanctions on countries unilaterally, which frees that country out of large parts of the world economy. And Washington can spend freely, certain that its debt will be bought up by the rest of the world. The war against Ukraine, combined with Washington's increasingly confrontational approach to China, have created a perfect storm in which both Russia and China are accelerating efforts to diversify away from the dollar. Their central banks are keeping less of their reserves in dollars, and most trade between them is being settled in the yuan. They are also making efforts to get other countries to follow suit. The Biden administration.
So it's very interesting that countries like China and Russia are no longer holding as much dollars, but they're trying to sway away from it, and they're trying to settle transactions between themselves.
Yeah, we're seeing the flip happen, right? Like it was theoretical, but it's Russia and China are making moves. They're pouncing.
Big moves. Moves. And then, so we're going to talk about it in a little bit. Yeah, but so they want to create their own currency. And that currency is going to be backed by actual metals like gold. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be really destabilizing, and it's going to be very interesting to see. Now let's watch a minute of this video as well. Actually, I'll play a little bit in the beginning and then at the end. So let's do that.
Putin announced this week that Russia will begin using the Chinese yuan for international payments instead of the dollar. Saudi Arabia is also in talks with Beijing to do the same thing. Speaking of Saudi Arabia, meanwhile, they're in talks with Iran as well to consider an economic alliance with China in Russia. And they can even be joining the BRIC countries, which is an acronym for these countries here, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These countries all have emerging economies. So what happens if our economy and the U.S. dollar are no longer the world's dominant currency? Former Assistant Treasury Secretary.
Then let's skip to the end. I want to show you guys one thing.
Global economic system. Here at home, you know what it's going to mean for us? It's going to mean raging inflation, so much worse than anything we have ever experienced. And I'll tell you, they're setting it up so that they can then come to the rescue by introducing central bank digital currencies. Right. If they were to do that, and the United States already has a pilot program, that means the loss of your individual economic freedom, because the government will have total access and control of everything you buy and sell, and the ability to turn it off like that.
Ominous warning. I hear you. Saudi Arabia is the tipping.
Great. It's just crazy that it's mainstream, right?
Yes, exactly.
Mainstream conversation right now. Like it's literally the best marketing we could possibly have for Monero. They're like one sentence away from saying it, right? So they're opening people's eyes to the fact that they're about to potentially lose any semblance of financial privacy they've already had. They're explaining to people why financial privacy is so important and so vital to our freedom and liberty. Like all those conversations are going to take place. And, people are worried about the CBDC as being the thing that's effectively going to do that. What's the solution? True cryptos, right? When you start to go down the list of which cryptos actually would truly preserve your financial privacy the most, you arrive at Monero. So, I mean, we're getting close, man. I mean, I don't know. I don't know when, if it's like another year, how much longer, but Monero is going to be discussed on CNN, on Fox, we're getting close. We're getting close.
I think so. Eventually, I think so as well.
I mean, I would never think the CBDC conversation would be where it's already at this point. Like that happened really fast for it to be. I feel like it came fast, right? Things are moving faster than I expected.
I think the same. And I was watching this video, and I was actually going to pause at 4 minutes because I kind of understood what they were talking about. And then I watched until the end, and then she said, CBDCs, that's what they want. And it's going to take away your freedoms. And I think that's really interesting that they're playing that on Fox News. So, I think they're going to discuss Monero, in the next 1-2 years. As soon as CBDCs come, I think that we're going to hear Monero on the news. Now let's play another video on the US dollar.
The Federal Reserve knows the dollar is finished. I mean, honest to God, if I could speak about maybe something I've heard at some point, maybe from somebody reputable, maybe not, you never know. I'm just going to throw something out there that I heard, that the BRIC nations want off the dollar, and they're going to do it August 1st of this year. So they have their own version of the SWIFT system, an international payment system that will run everything but the dollar. And joining that list is Saudi Arabia. This is big. China's on that list. Russia's on that list. Brazil is on that list. Thailand's on that list. There's a lot of countries that are tired of the dollar and they want off.
Okay. Yes, I think it's going to be a very scary time because the dollar has been used so strongly, and now it's very smart what Russia and China and all these countries are doing by destabilizing the dollar and sort of decentralizing the financial power in a way. Of course, it's not the way that we would want it to be, but it's taken away a lot of power from the US.
Yeah, I mean, they're competing. These, just like citizens lose out from the fiat system, other countries lose out from America's fiat system, right? It doesn't just take advantage of the citizens here. It takes advantages of other countries as well. This ability to control the money and print more at will and have an infinite supply of essentially the world reserve currency. And so, it's just a matter of time. Other countries never wanted that, just never had the ability to overcome the US. But apparently they're at a point in time where it seems like they do have that ability to do so. They're teaming up and they're seeing what they can do. And it all has to do with the crypto evolution too, right? So we're just in this world where money is competing, right? We're in that period of time where we're seeing competition between money, and we'll see which money wins. Crazy. Yeah.
So I think that
competing too with their CBDCs. It's not just crypto, right? Everybody's competing. So each one's going to affect each other. I've said I think the end result is going to be this. CBDCs are going to exist alongside true cryptos for some time. Transition beyond that. And I do think CBDCs, in order to compete, are going to offer features that, will attract people, right? So they're obviously going to be doing things that aren't ideal in terms of preserving liberty, but they're going to be offering features that people may want to have in their money without revealing what the bad parts are, right? But like you said, I mean, we could very well see a CBDC issued by right, like Russia and China teamed up, right, and with Saudi Arabia
Yes.
and others, that is backed by gold. I mean, that's a feature, right? That competes. Like, what do you rather own? You rather own fiat US dollar that's not backed by anything, or you want this CBDC that's backed by gold, right? All right, so there's some trust involved with, you know, whether or not they actually, you know, have the gold in their reserves, but it's better than what fiat currently is, right? It's step in the right direction. So I mean, it's going to compete. Crazy.
And this has been planned for a long time, I think, because last year Putin, when everybody decided to push Russia away from the financial system, what did Putin do? He said, okay, well, the ruble is not doing good right now, but what we're going to do is that we're going to back the ruble by gold. So then if you want to settle anything with us, if you want to purchase anything with us, you can pay in rubles to strengthen our currency, or by gold. And then they hoarded a lot of gold by doing so. And in this article, it says that the new currency would be secured by gold and other commodities such as rare earth elements. And like Doug said, what currency do you want? Do you want the US dollar, the CBDC US dollar backed by probably nothing? Or do you want the Chinese, the Russian CBDC backed by a rare earth element? So I think by now, CBDC, everybody should know that CBDCs are coming. And again, like Doug said, it's going to be CBDCs alongside crypto. For how long? I'm not sure. But the thing is, they're going to make CBDCs in such a way that it's like with the dollar. People are not going on the streets protesting about inflation, because most people are aware about inflation, but they don't know how bad it really is. But I think with CBDCs, once they see the negative interest rate that they need to spend their money, and then, oh, I can buy this, why can't I buy this? I think we're going to see more protests when CBDCs come. I'm not sure how they're going to hide their surveillance system with the CBDCs. But it's very interesting. So, essentially, Russia's going to have its own CBDC, China's going to have its own CBDC, and they're going to have a gateway to transact between each other without needing the US dollar, which is revolutionary, destabilizing, and scary for people that work for US dollars, like me and Doug and Sunita and people that are watching. But then what I want to discuss is, let's see, let's go back to, let's discuss a bill. This is Bill S-686. So this bill, essentially, if you use VPN to access banned apps, which could be, they talked about TikTok, could be, I don't know, Monero wallet. Let's say that they found out that you got a Monero wallet, minimum, it's actually maximum, a maximum 20-year sentence, and I think up to $1 million in fine, which is crazy. And all these things are done so that you feel more safe. They do it for, to protect ourselves from terrorists, but you're just being put in a smaller and smaller and smaller cage with every single legislation that they put in just to protect you, because you need someone else to protect you. And like Dan from Taxation said, you won't have your pants on when you walk on the street. You don't want them to be down to your ankles. And like your house, you want to have walls in your house. You want some level of privacy. Not everything should be transparent. Cameras in the bathroom to make sure that people are not, I don't know, exchanging over $10,000 because that's going to be illegal, or doing drugs and stuff like that. So interesting, very interesting.
That was the bill to ban, one of the bills proposed to ban TikTok, right? And they basically wrote it up in such a broad way that it's effectively banning, you're saying, usage of VPNs and stuff?
Yes. So I haven't read the whole legislation, but I think that's what it's trying to imply, that, if you're trying to access things that they banned, up to 20 years, so they make sure that you are not going to to access things that they don't want you to access. Of course, to protect you, because you need to be protected. Then what I want to mention is that
all these things seem related, right? Like the Operation Choke Point, which everybody's talking about, which is basically cutting crypto off from the traditional banking system, right? So making it difficult for crypto businesses to exist, like exchanges and stuff that want to interface with the traditional banking system. The rise of CBDCs, and regulations and laws that are being put into place that could allow governments to wield control over crypto, right? And start to ban things. It's not a coincidence that all these things are happening at the same time. This is how you corral people. This is how it happens.
Exactly. It's been planned for a long time. And it's kind of sad that, we have this thing called cryptocurrency that was supposed to be a revolution, but there's only really one that is really helping the revolution. All of them are not really. They're just surveillance tools. But yeah, people use Monero also for bad things, and I do want to mention that it's not all just flowers. People use it for good things. People use it for bad things. There's this pro-ISIS website hosted in French Pacific Islands that fundraise using Monero. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, these are the types of things that will be pointed out as to why this tool needs to be banned, right? Which is analogous to wanting to ban the internet because bad things happen on the internet. But that's not how people are going to view it, and that's not how the government is going to pitch it. And so it's really important that we continue to get the proper information. It's an information war, because at the end of the day, if enough people are ethically aligned with it, because they truly understand with it, then if this at least in the US, if this republic democracy actually functions, then we win in that manner, right? And these draconian laws aren't passed. And then second is, even if they are, that crypto just is built in such a way that it can't be stopped. But it looks like, as part of all these other things we're talking about, this chokehold on crypto, this is going to be, one of the talking points. Crypto is used for financing terrorism. When I ran for Congress, I told you that story, right? I got sent everybody that donated to my campaign got sent a letter to their house with the picture of me on it from my campaign, and next side by side with the picture of the Taliban with machine guns in a pickup truck.
Oh yes, I remember. Jesus.
Monero is used to fund terrorism. Doug Tooman supports terrorism, is essentially what they said. And you donated to his campaign. If you don't donate it again, you won't be hearing from us. But if you do, you will. So it was a threatening letter to every single person that donated to my campaign with this picture of the Taliban of it holding guns. And so I mean, if they were coming after me to that regard, in that regard, just shows you, right? So it's going to happen, which is why I ran, right? Because I think we need people to stand up for it.
Yes.
Like we always say, right? It's unstoppable. It's built to be resistant to bans. That's the only way it's going to work. That's the cypherpunk ideology. But we also need to, we need to fight this war in more than one way, right? So it's not just about building unstoppable tech, but we need to fight the war politically as well, because it can be won. I mean, Monero completely aligns with what the true ideals are supposed to be for this country, but somebody needs to be out there fighting this. We're starting to see it. We're starting to see with the CBDCs. We're starting to see, Ron DeSantis talking against CBDCs and some of these other, congressmen and senators. So I don't know. Maybe we get somebody to step up and make these arguments. But
and just to tell people, just to give you some background. So the day that Doug told me that story, we were in Miami, and that same day, using Monero, we purchased coconut water. We tipped some people with Monero. We purchased stuff with Monero. So nothing, no terrorism involved. That's insane. And, it's unfortunate that these things happen. But, yeah. So now let's talk about the European Banking Federation and their vision about the digital euro. They're saying that they want to create value for end customers and the economy. They want to preserve financial stability and bank funding, of course. The robust business model to incentivize blah, blah, and balances design choices to safeguard privacy and enable the fulfillment of compliance requirements. So we have privacy and enable the fulfillment of compliance requirements while allowing intermediaries to process customers' payment data based on customers' consent to provide value-added services. Okay, so basically, you're not going to have privacy. Essentially, you can transact, but if there's something that they don't like, they can, of course, turn off your privacy and they can see it and they can do whatever you want. But we talked about last week about how the situation with Fluffy Pony, there's no single central attack point on Monero. If Fluffy Pony doesn't even have access to the code anymore. So it doesn't matter what happens to an individual. Monero is going to thrive. We're going to have Monero to use against these things. And it's going to protect your privacy no matter what, whether you're ISIS or just like a regular person, which is the most important thing. Then I want to discuss. Oh yeah, let's go to this one actually. EU to ban anonymous crypto transfers of over 1,000 euro. So what they want to do, they want to set a limit to 7,000 euro for cash and 1,000 for anonymous cryptocurrency transfers. Okay. Yeah. So
this is crazy.
Yeah.
This is insane.
So you can't even buy a car, almost, or some stuff like that. Like you need to use your card. You can't use cash.
How exactly do they intend on banning anonymous crypto transactions over $1,000? How exactly is that going to happen?
I know. That's what I was thinking.
I mean, and cash too, right? Yeah. How do they
exactly
intend on doing that?
Yeah.
One is more ridiculous than the next. I'd say that the crypto one is even harder to stop, right? I mean, in digital form, people just on the internet will be zapping each other any amount they want using Monero. And they could be doing it within the jurisdiction of the EU. And I just don't see how they would ever manage to, effectively ban.
And Monero protects your IP as well. So you can even see that it was done in the European Union. And you can even see the amount. So again, 1,000 euro cap for anonymous cryptocurrency transfers. That doesn't make any sense. And
this is exactly what we were talking about, right? I haven't read this, but I assume the reason they're doing this is to prevent the financing of terrorism and money laundering, right? Yep.
Right there. Yep. It's always the same thing.
Yeah.
Always the same.
Like, how do you argue against that? Like, you can't, guys. I mean, in their eyes, you can't. Obviously, there are arguments against it, but they don't want to hear it.
So this doesn't even make any sense. But then I have two more stuff, and then that's it for this week.
All right.
Let's talk about Bitcoin and IPs. So in Monero, you can't track a user's IP address. You're protected against like your IP is protected. The sender, the receiver, the amount, everything. So nobody knows everything. But reportedly, there's an entity that uses a range of 812 different IP addresses to obscure its identity while collecting data on Bitcoin users and their IP address, like where they actually where they live. So you can do that with Monero. You can read the article. All the links are going to be in the description if you want to read the whole thing. But you can't do that with Monero, and that's very unfortunate that that is happening in Bitcoin. Then last thing that I want to mention, Cake Wallet on macOS. It's out of beta as of now. So get it, test it, try it out. For the people watching on YouTube, here's the screenshot. That's pretty cool. I'm not sure if it's in Windows as of now. I think it's just macOS. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, so just to end the news section, I want to mention 2 things. One, Monerotopia.com, as always. Buy tickets.
You're good at this, man. You're good. We're not good at promoting ourselves. You're good at it.
Great tickets. Thank you. Yeah, to card. Then, guys, you view card. Tony.
Tony!
And I saved you 9 anonymous dollars if you pay.
10% off with Tony. Tony.
Beautiful. And,
we added a libertarian one with 20% off. Sorry, Tony.
Can you make mine like 21%?
21%.
All right, we can do that. We'll do that.
No. It's okay.
21% off if you use Tony. You heard it here.
Until tomorrow.
Zinnia, can you
Who's gonna
change?
do
Can
the
you change
link?
that?
I don't know.
Can't you just change it? No.
It takes a sec.
All right, let's
Can we
take
do
a
this for the
second, guys,
weekend?
within the next 24 hours. What?
24 hours?
Yeah, we could change. We could change the Tony one, so it's 21% off.
Okay. All right, guys, you heard it. 21% for the next 24 hours. And the last thing that I want to mention for the news section is that it's so interesting to go over the CBDC's news, and month by month we're coming closer and closer and closer. And one day we're going to do the news section, and we're going to discuss the CBDC now, like actually living through it.
Yeah, we'll be using it, right?
We'll be using it.
Yeah.
That's going to be crazy. And I think that's in the next 2 years.
We'll be figuring out how we're swapping it for Monero. CBDCs to Monero atomic swaps.
Live. That'll be crazy.
Coming soon, guys. Monerotopia 2025.
That'll be wild. Absolutely wild.
Shit, man. So we got a bunch of people that are in the spaces. 16. We got a bunch of people online. 17. Should we go? Should we move over to the spaces and hang out with people? Do people want to talk?
Yeah, you want to discuss
give request to speak so we know that people are actually looking to chat a little bit. Otherwise, we'll kill the show here.
Mm-hmm.
I know Sunita's ready for dinner.
Yes, I am.
But I could do
you
this
know,
part
Doug
on
can
my
just
own.
talk for hours.
Anybody raise a
and
hand
hours
or a
and
heart
hours.
or some motion in spaces if you want to, if you have something to say.
Yeah, guys, if you want to discuss.
Oh, 𝙏𝙗𝙚 is requesting. All right, we're gonna go into spaces. We're gonna move the show over there. Tony, join us over there if you can for a little bit.
Yep. Request to speak.
We'll probably spend about 15 minutes in there. So
15. It begins now, and
I mean, 𝙏𝙗𝙚. This could be another 3 hours right here. He's probably listening to some LCD sound system right now. On out. I guess we will see you over there. What's up, guys? All right, I'm over here. 𝙏𝙗𝙚, I moved you up to speak. What's going on, man?
Hey, it's Friday, so might as well celebrate with some Monero talk. It's the best thing going on.
Hey, 𝙏𝙗𝙚, what's up?
Hey, yeah, I was hoping to get your thoughts on something about CBDCs. The way I see it right now, it seems like sometimes a lot of creeping tyranny is when something happens, and by the time it happens, it's too late to do anything about it, or it takes a lot to reverse it. And I think some people now, the people that are talking about it now, are kind of like the canaries in the coal mine, or starting to be trying to apprise themselves of what kind of risk to liberty are at stake and how to communicate to people. How do you think that liberty could be affected and by the CBDCs, and how do you think we can communicate to other people so that something can be done?
Yes, you're asking Tony.
Tony, yeah, I'm asking Tony. Yeah, or actually anyone. I would like to know what you think too, Doug, because you've been in politics for a while.
Okay, I'll go first, and then Doug. Then that's good. That's a very good question. Well, I think first of all, I think CBDCs are coming very soon, which is scary.
Tony, I'm hearing like a little echo for you over there.
It actually sounds like me delayed, but I'm only on one device. I don't know where the echo is coming from.
I'm just on Twitter Spaces, so it should sound good. And I'm muted on the. I'm not even in. Oh, okay. Is it better? No.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, it's better. The Martian, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good.
Loud and clear.
Okay, awesome. Yes, I think CBDCs are definitely going to affect liberty, as we all know, just because you're not gonna really have privacy. You're not gonna be able to transact as you want to. You're not gonna be able to buy, let's say, as much meat as you want, of course, because they're trying to implement the carbon footprint tracker and all this stuff. So freedom is gonna go out the window, and as the Martian knows and everybody knows, they're introducing all these bills, all this stuff, so that we're, for the sake of our safety, we're just being put in a smaller and smaller and smaller cage. And I think the second thing that you asked is, how do we spread the word? Well, was that the second question? Like, how do we basically get it out to people to make them aware?
Right. I mean, yeah, it seems like a lot when it comes to privacy, for example, a lot of the people that are of the mentality of well, I got nothing to hide, or actually seem to be coping because they're really overwhelmed by it. They know they don't know enough. It'll be a lot of effort, and they know that it'd be really hard for them to even grasp the concept. So they kind of revert back to their retreat to kind of, okay, well, I'm just not going to worry about it because I can't do anything. But maybe we can do something if we can convince people of the importance and the impact to them now, so that they're actually willing to take steps while there's time.
Very good point. Beautiful point. I think my approach when I talk to people about this topic, and Doug's too, is very simplistic. I think that you shouldn't make it complicated, and you should put it in their own terms, because we're humans. So usually, if I explain it this way, like, would you have a house with transparent walls? And they would say no. Like, why would I want that? And then you would relate it to the financial system. What if I told you that you can buy as much of this as you wanted? Or what if I told you that the whole world can see, or your significant other saw that you already bought that gift from them because it's all transparent, or stuff like that? And they'll say, no, I wouldn't like that. So you give examples that would relate to them. They'll make them think, and then you kind of give them a fundamental thinking and approach, then giving them the tool, which is Monero. Then if they're interested, they ask more questions, then I'll talk about Monero, but my focus would be more on the fundamental thinking, because eventually they're going to discover it. They're going to see more of CBDCs, and they're going to think back of those examples. They don't need to know about, because I've seen some people overly explain Monero and all the intricacies to laymen, and they don't need to understand. So I think this will be a good way.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we were saying on the show. I mean, and like what I talk about it all the time, right? So, well, what the effect is going to be is, I mean, it's why I do the show, just get the word out there. So it's kind of the $1 million question in terms of what we can do, what we can say. I'm trying to say it every day, but I think that the message that will resonate the most is basically what's now being said on Fox News and CNN. It's that they're creating this thing called a CBDC, and it's not even that it's going to eliminate your financial privacy. It's that it's going to be programmable, right? So they're going to eliminate cash. Everybody understands cash. Well, actually, the younger generations really don't, but people that have money and have are 40 years old or older understand what cash means, right? And it means that you have this ability
to hold a bearer asset and use it at will, and nobody knows you're using it, particularly the government and corporations, and everybody understands that. That's why cash is king. It's like, it's a universal concept, and people understand why that's important. So people may not care so much that, you know, Facebook spies on them. Like, they may be like, you know, the old, I got nothing to hide. I got nothing to hide, whatever. Facebook, it's fun. I can put my pictures up there. I can see my family. I don't care if the Facebook knows what I'm doing. I get this free service. But they will care when they go to spend their CBDC and they basically get turned off by the system. They will care when they go to check their bank account and they see there's a negative interest rate being implemented, and as Tony was saying, and there's nothing they can do about it. When they go to whatever, purchase their quota of meat and their transaction isn't going through. When they go to send money to some cause that they believe in, or maybe something that's not even that controversial, but for whatever reason, the government has put it on a list and their transaction doesn't go through, it's censored. That is going to wake people up. So how do we get the message out now? I don't know. I mean, we're just talking among the army of early adopters that can see this coming, right? We're all whatever smart enough, or we've taken the time to think about it, where we all see this coming. We're out there every day trying to get the masses to get aware, you know, be aware of it. But really, unfortunately, I think they're not going to be made aware until it hits them in the face. And Monero will be here and will be ready for them, right? So I think that's the important part. We focus on building out our economy, building out the tech, using it among ourselves. And we have this island where we're ready for them. Once they do get smacked in the face, they have a place to go to, and they will get smacked in the face because it's inevitable. It's coming like a freight train right now. But unfortunately, I don't think it's about warning them to jump out of the way. I think it's about building the island that they can jump to for safety once they get smacked in the face.
Yeah, no, I think that makes so much sense. Yeah, because I know that there's no way I could communicate some of what I can see from experiences I've had living in Silicon Valley, working with the types of people in companies that use that data in ways like AI to literally focus on a person across all their devices and influence their behavior subtly in ways that they don't even realize. But it's a game. It's constantly playing against you. They're using all that data in a way to control you in ways that affect you. Some things are by modifying your behavior, or it could be by using that data to modify things elsewhere in the world for their own profit, but to your disadvantage. And describing that to people it sounds like such a wild thing that they can't see, and they're just kind of like, okay, it sounds bad. But I think, yeah, once they get smacked in the face, they got to have that alternative. And I think the trucker, their protest was, to me, a big wake-up call, because that was a moment when people were ready to go, say, we can't donate money, and yet it really wasn't that clear to people how to get resources in place, the ways to transfer money and convert that into resources. People weren't able to pull that all together. Instead, they had truckers holding up signs saying "HODL," and they're like, "What? It's not what they're supposed to do with it right now." So it seems like, yeah, that'll be a big part of it, making it so that people are aware of who to turn to.
Yeah, I mean, imagine, whatever the next pandemic, right? And your government knows if you're vaxxed or not, right? You need to go get your Vax Pass, right? Your digital ID Vax Pass, which is now associated with your CBDC. You want to go out to a restaurant. Not only do you need to, your CBDC just won't even function. It won't even work, right? Like they can control you in that way. If they can control how you use and spend your money, they could essentially perfectly control you. You have no means of living in a society if you can't use your money at your own free will. So that's why I think CBDCs, more than anything else, will wake people up once it goes full scale and they actually start turning the screws. Bawdy, right. Let me add Bawdy over here. He's got.
I had one last question for you, Doug, about based on your political experience, because I know you have familiarity with the law and government in general. That's why you ran for it. So when the federal government was created, it was created with the idea that power will be exploited. And they tried to have checks and balances, even when the government was much, much smaller than it is today. The way that CBDCs concentrate power, do you see any parallels where people have lost the way, or they might resonate to something lost in the way that things are working?
Could you just rephrase the question? You're cutting out a little bit. Go ahead.
Sorry. Do you see certain values or certain ideals, that foundations of the U.S. federal government in terms of not, yeah.
How a CBDC potentially is violating these like basic concepts? Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, like you're saying, right? Like the Federalist Papers was all about protecting minority opinions. Essentially, that's really where free speech derives from, right? So it's really about free political speech, so that the minority opinions can always essentially exist and be broadcasted, right? But if you're able to shut down certain types of political speech, you can essentially completely control society, right? And it's how tyranny blossoms. CBDC, money is speech, right? I believe money is a tool for speech, software is speech, code is speech. And so if you could in control money, you can control that form of speech, right? And it comes down to these same basic concepts where, I mean, you literally pointed out the scenario with the truckers in Canada. There's your perfect scenario where the government was basically able to exercise tyranny through controlling money. And so we may see more extreme forms of that, where there's people that might have some political ideas that don't align with the tyranny that's in power at the time, and they'll be able to shut those people down by turning off their money spigot. If they can't, it's the equivalent to putting a muzzle on them, where they, if they can't speak on social media, that's one thing. But then also if they can't use resources to fund themselves, how are they going to spread their ideas? So it's just another means of being able to control the free flow of information and control ideas. And like you said, this country was built upon this core philosophical principle of always allowing ideas to freely compete and not allowing anyone to have enough power to be able to essentially shut down the free flow of information.
Thanks. Yeah, that's great.
Beautifully said.
I mean, that's how I look at it. Bawdy, what's going on? Bawdy could drop some wisdom for sure.
Hey, Bawdy, what's up, man?
Hey, man. Good to chat with you. You're coming to Monerotopia, right?
Tomorrow's April 1st. I think I'll be able to know in a week, but I'm pretty sure. I really hope so, because I want to see you guys. But I think in 1 week I should be able to let you guys know.
Cool. Well, I hope you make it out there. But
damn, Tony, you're leaving us hoping over here. Make moves.
We gotta apply some more social pressure or something. We get on Twitter and be like, everyone tell Tony to make it out.
Oh no, everyone tag me.
So with respect to this question, how do we like convince people about CBDCs and get their attention? The first thing I would say is target the people that would already be potentially amenable. There's a whole segment of people that are kind of open, that have the ears to hear it. And then there's a whole segment of the population that'll just never hear it. So you just don't waste your time on those guys. But then the other thing, to me personally, I would connect it to the whole virus alarmism stuff that happened. Be like, yo, remember when they shut down everyone's business and screwed up the economy? Well, imagine if it was just even easier for them to do that. And now they could just shut down people individually, right? You tell people these CBDCs, they completely get rid of, even though it's almost like kind of nominal, where the banks are supposed to be a private industry, and then the government's supposed to get a warrant and come there and talk to the banks, and there's a whole bunch of process and procedure that they're required to go through, and there's kind of like a layer of separation. But imagine removing that layer of separation where the government is the bank suddenly, and now they can just tell everyone exactly what they can do. The next time they want to try and shut down the economy, done, right? They could just do it. They don't have to go through any kind of formal process to talk to individuals or industry or corporations. They could just go straight to it. So, maybe connecting it in that way, saying like, hey, if they want to do another one of these crazy lockdown tyranny things, it's just going to be that much easier for them with the CBDC. But I think it's very encouraging that Fox News, that we're seeing them talk about CBDCs on Fox News. It does make me a little bit suspicious too. I think to myself, well, okay, is there some kind of like false dichotomy being set up here? Like, is there a limited hangout going on, and are we kind of being led down a path? I'm not saying one way or the other, but I definitely would want to ask that question at least, and see, maybe explore that some, see what that possibility would be. But anyways, that was just my thoughts on the question that Guido Martian.
I'm curious, really where the anti-CBDC power is coming from, right? So you have these politicians that are out there that are talking against CBDCs, but we all know politicians get their ideas from somewhere. They're always influenced. So I'm curious to who the influencers are that are pushing for them to be out there talking against CBDCs. Is it just, kind of Bitcoin lobbyists? Is it maybe the banking industry that, wants to preserve itself, that doesn't want to be destroyed by CBDCs, the retail banking industry? I'm curious where that power is coming from.
That's definitely one thing we have in our favor. There's kind of a lot of disparate interests that don't want to see a CBDC. Like, okay, I dislike the bankers and the way that they have such an unfair advantage, but I think I dislike the government more. So I would be amenable to having some kind of temporary alliance where we could at least be like, okay, this is so bad, we need to all of us oppose it, and we can temporarily be, I don't know, frenemies with some of these banker insider types. I would like to think too, I want to believe that some of these guys like Tucker Carlson or whoever else, that some of these guys are actually waking up. Previously they're like, oh, yay, government, and okay, minimal government, and it's bad. But now they're like, oh, wow, there's really, really nefarious people here, and we need to do something about this. I would like to believe that a lot of these guys that were kind of normies are kind of waking up now. So there's that possibility.
That definitely, there is that does exist, because at the end of the day, it's all about views, right? It's about getting views, right? So if it's popular to be woken up, right, and to be out there and be, your base, and you're actually talking, like, if that's gaining popularity, then it's going to propel them to be more like that. And I do think some of them actually, do have it in their heart. They're freedom fighters, and now they're seeing that freedom fighting is actually gaining traction. So there's that. But I also think you can't discount the fact that there's probably some strong groups out there that are opposed to CBDCs. Like, it almost feels like Fox News and CNN are talking about it too early. I feel like, I don't know, I'm just surprised that we're seeing this narrative being pushed by CNN. Tucker Carlson, sure, but for the CNN to be out there talking about it, I'm just kind of surprised, and I'm curious where that lobbying is coming from.
That intuition sounds correct to me, because especially when it comes to money and financial systems, there's been entrenched powers that are benefiting well from it. So somebody's benefiting from the status quo in a way that they don't want to see changed, it seems.
Exactly.
But
I mean, the retail banking industry is the most obvious thing to me, right?
what I'm thinking is that because essentially everybody's, I think, is going to be on CBDC, the president, the people, everybody. So when they're going to introduce negative interest rates to make us spend our money, are they going to have different percentages for, say, the people in power? And then us, the people, we're going to have the negative interest rates, and they're not going to be affected because it's programmable. So that's going to be an interesting aspect. of CBDCs.
Yeah, that's extreme, but who knows? Who knows?
Because we're all in the same boat, you know. And I was listening to what Bawdy had to say about people waking up. You know, and Fox News is now talking about it, and everybody. But we'll all be in the same boat, and a lot of people are not going to be happy, even amongst the politicians and the banksters, unless, you know, they're going to modify their CBDC wallet so that it's favorable for them specifically, and then, you know, for the rest of us, they're gonna implement all those measures. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
Do you think there's any kind of way that in the short term there could be a disadvantage for not having CBDCs in the US or any other country while other countries are implementing that, because somehow they get some kind of synergistic effect of having this economy that's everything's using CBDCs?
I think so. I'm gonna put it this way. What if, let's say, so right now we use the dollar and then Monero is not really being used. What if Monero would be the dollar and then the dollar would be the CBDC? So that cash is not really accepted. It's kind of hard. A lot of people don't accept it. They prefer the CBDC, or I think Doug mentioned it some time ago, you get a discount. You get 20% discount for using the CBDC. And that's gonna get a lot of people on board. They'll say, yeah, of course, let's do it. You know, then they're gonna tell their employer, I want to be paid in CBDC. I don't like cash anymore. I'm getting discounts. You know, I think they're gonna make it favorable for people in the beginning. But it's gonna be interesting. Is it going to be a smooth transition, like cash and the CBDC, or just a total destruction of the dollar? And then somehow we're gonna have CBDC. But then there's people in the US. A lot of people don't have a phone, right? So what's gonna happen to them? The government is gonna give everybody iPhones or Androids so that they can use their CBDC. So okay, so then that maybe kind of answer my question. I guess we're gonna have like a smooth transition. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Actually, I'm curious.
They're gonna give everyone a Fed phone.
Fuck.
If you don't have one, you get a Fed phone.
Oh my god.
It's going to be a custom version of Android, but instead of like Graphene OS, it's going to be the complete opposite.
It's going to be Subaru OS.
It's good. I mean, that's not far-fetched at all. It's not far-fetched at all. It makes perfect sense, right?
It's going to be called Build S686 OS.
One thing that might be worth keeping in the back of the mind or as a consideration, it's possible that the dollar is not actually going to fail. It's possible that the world is not going to de-dollarize in the way that we think. There are some people kind of putting out counter opinions, like, for example, Lynn Alden had a thread where she was talking about it's kind of one thing for some of these nations to get together and then sort of do some of their inter-trade accounting with their own currencies, but it's a totally different thing if they're going to de-dollarize for the purposes of completely like trying to balance their trade surpluses and deficits. One thing that happens right now is that the United States prints dollars, they export it, the rest of the world uses it to settle their trade imbalances. Now, China is basically a net saver, and the United States is net, a net spender, basically, which is why we've seen the manufacturing base leave America. And the thing is, you've seen China have these very mercantilist policies, which means that they want to be net exporters of everything, and they really like the power that gives them. But the problem is that if they really wanted to take the RMB and then turn that into something like a reserve currency or something to compete with the dollar, they'll end up in this situation where they're going to have to completely open a lot of the capital controls that they use with the renminbi. So, which means then suddenly that they have to be net exporters of the renminbi, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, the RMB, so that they can fill the demand that other nations would have for using them for their trade imbalance or their trade balances, whether it's a surplus or a negative. So that requires China to open up in a way that they really might not want to do, and it requires that they could experience the same kind of effects that happened when the US dollar became the world's reserve currency, which was a removal of the manufacturing base. So in a lot of ways, it might be like, so we see all this stuff on the news. Okay, they're probably doing some amount of trade in their own native currencies, but it might be that the dollar, they don't want to change that system. They might not want to go through the pain that requires. And the system the U.S. has right now is beneficial to the people like the banksters, basically, the people that are printing money, that have access to the to the printer and to loans and all that. But it's been kind of bad for the United States population base. Whereas if maybe the dollar maybe if we did de-dollarize, that would actually help the middle class significantly with a little bit of pain in the interim. And I'm not exactly sure that any of the power players in the world want that. So that's just kind of like a quick and dirty on the case for why we might not actually see a dollar failure, and the rest of the world might not want to see a dollar failure as a more or less a reserve currency for trade balance.
That's interesting, man. Do you think there'll be capital controls potentially put in place so to prevent people from fleeing from the dollar into other competing CBDCs?
Well, I'm saying that they might not need to put those capital controls, because it could very well be that Russia and China and some of these, these other quote unquote competing nations, it might not be that they want to completely remove the dollar as the basis of their trade balance deficit and surplus, or sorry, just balancing their overall nation's inflows and outflows of capital. It requires a complete restructuring of their economy in a way that they probably don't want to do. So it might not require capital controls at all. Like the world might just want to continue using the dollar as it is.
Yeah, no, I get you, and that's very rational. I get that, but I'm curious also if do we potentially, if what you're saying doesn't play out, and if these CBDCs start to gain power, right? If a gold-backed Russian China CBDC becomes attractive, I'm curious, do we potentially see a scenario where the U.S. government, sanctions it, right? So it doesn't allow people to move into it. They put in capital controls preventing people U.S. citizens from moving into it.
That would kind of be par for the course when it comes to U.S. government putting controls on their little employees that have to pay their taxes or have to pay the government's taxes. But maybe not anymore. We just saw today where maybe we can figure out how not to pay taxes legally. Dan can tell us all about it.
Could come down to Monerotopia where we could have those conversations in person, right? And where Dan will be presenting, actually.
I'm really stoked to see
that. So one thing I've been considering is that with the rising debt in the U.S., it's ballooning without corresponding economic growth. What other option could there be other than eventually that getting recoiled with inflation that devalues the dollar to the point where they don't become insolvent? And do you think that's on a timeline for where it be imminent, or is that far out?
So there's this theory that what's happening here is not just like a cyclical change, but it's like deeply fundamentally structural. Right now, debt to GDP is so high; it's far higher than it has been really since World War II, and actually even higher than that. So there's a guy named Russell Napier, and he has this theory where he's saying the only way for the government to actually get the debt to GDP ratio down is to inflate their way out of it. So yes, we'll have high inflation, but he also theorizes that we'll get a lot more manufacturing returning to the states, and that this is a very structural shift that's sort of brought on by the turn in the bond market. So the bond market has been in a bullish scenario for the last half century, but with the bond market and the value of these bonds falling significantly, that sort of invites these structural changes. And his theory is that inflation is going to remain high, but that we're not actually going to go into a recession, and that we're actually going to have relatively high GDP because they're going to spend this inflation directly into the economy. And supposedly they're going to do this by guaranteeing loans in a way that they haven't done before. So for example, Europe started guaranteeing loans. If you remember, they did the college student debt forgiveness recently. So when the government backstops a loan and says, hey, banks, we're going to make sure this loan is covered, that encourages the banks to actually be able to spend into the real economy, into manufacturing and production. Whereas the past 10 years, since 2008, 15 years, it's mostly been financial inflation, right? All of the financial stuff is ballooned in value, but
our actual manufacturing base has not increased. Now, I'm not saying that I necessarily think that's what's going to happen, but I do think it's important to keep in mind that there is like kind of a cogent theory that could be the case. They might actually be able to inflate their way out of this debt to GDP problem, which I think that answers or is responsive to what you said, DJ Martian.
It is. It's exactly. Yeah. Thank you. I've asked that question to a bunch of people, and nobody really had any thoughts like that on it. Wow. Thank you.
I want to add one thing, because Doug mentioned capital flow, and I think that they do have a cap right now. That the U.S. wants to hold dollars within the U.S. because every time I want to send money to Europe, they always make it very, very complicated, or I can send only a certain amount of money, and then it always resumes to me going with a bunch of cash that I try to hide in sometimes like Christmas decorations or stuff like that, so that they don't see that I have more that I'm supposed to give to, you know, family, friends, or whatever. So yeah, I think that they do have a cap on that. That they want to keep the dollars within the U.S. and not outside, so that people don't save in dollars.
Tuxedo, go ahead.
Oh, hey. Yeah, the that Restrict Act, the Restrict bill, which everyone's calling the TikTok bill, that's crazy. And I have seen some, like, I know it's hard to say anything good could come out of this, but I have seen some good is that because it's dealing with TikTok and VPNs, which is like, you know, TikTok, you know, so many, you know, young people use TikTok. A lot of people use TikTok and VPNs even. It's reached like a new kind of status of people being like, whoa, this is really bad. Like, this should not happen. Like, even my mom knew about this. I didn't even tell her about it. She knew about this, and she was like, this is like really messed up. But what's funny to me, and what makes me the most upset is the complete psyop that is, oh, we're giving our data to China. We're sending all this data to China because TikTok's Chinese and they're taking our data. But what about all the companies here that do it the best? Facebook, Google, Amazon. You know, it's a hypocrisy, but they know what they're doing. It's a complete psyop, so they can implement stuff like this. In fact, they admire the Chinese government and how they're able to control stuff like this, and so they're trying to do the exact same thing by prosecuting people, or at least threatening to. We know that they'll never be able to actually do it, but threatening to prosecute people for accessing banned content using a VPN. China literally does that. It's pretty crazy, but I don't think it's gonna go through. But just the fact that it's proposed is like pretty insane.
Yeah, man, you're spot on though, right? It's like don't use those apps. We don't want China, you know, stealing all our citizens' information because we want to have that information. Like
the other thing,
we spy on
sorry.
our citizens. We don't want you spying on them, right?
Yeah, and the other thing is just the whole thing with like governments fining companies for privacy violations. Like, it makes me upset because so many people see this as like, oh yeah, that's right, government, you show that company they can't take our data. The government doesn't care. They literally could not care less. This is just a giant money making machine for them. If they actually cared, they would force that money to go to the consumer instead. They would force drastic action like shutting down the company or whatever. But no, it's just a money making machine for them, and that's all it is.
I agree, Tux, and I think that overall they don't care about you as a human being. They don't care about your health. They don't care about your success. They don't care about anything at all. So them trying to ban TikTok because, like you said, you know, we're giving away our data to China and stuff like that is just nonsense. They don't care to actually protect you. There's US-based companies that are trying to use your information anyway. So
yeah, I feel like companies in the US, they probably steal information like the best.
They do. And I actually have one very good example. It's about, I think it's called Crypto AG, and this was, I think, during the Cold War, and it's essentially a cryptographic machine. If you guys seen the movie Enigma, something like that, essentially. Very good movie, by the way, Enigma. You guys should watch it. And so essentially, I think a guy from Sweden made this cryptography machine, or someone from Europe, and then the CIA basically said, okay, we're going to purchase a patent because we don't want Russia and other countries to use it against us, the US. So what did the US do? They bought the patents. They sent the cryptographic machine across over 130 countries, and they've been spying on all those countries for over 5 decades. So yeah, the US.
Yeah, the cipher machines with back doors and
yeah. So the US can't say anything about that.
Right. So one thing though with TikTok especially is that it got busted for keylogging in other apps, which is, you know, I think some passwords, they think it's possible passwords were logged, which means they probably were. But typically when you see someone putting that kind of malware on in an app, you think, whoa, we're gonna clamp down on that, we're gonna get rid of it. Someone put a keylogger in it. It's like almost like a Trojan horse. But then even after that, TikTok's been questioned adding certain security features that don't seem necessary or unusual. And if you look at a country like China that hacks all sorts of places and is pretty successful, all terms considered, you think that if there's going to be some exploit, they're probably going to be ahead of it. So there might be a few updates ahead of whatever it is that's not discovered yet. And if they find a way to hack your device to have a Trojan horse or another keylogger, they're probably going to take advantage of that. And we already taught them if they get busted, it's, you know, no consequences. But yeah, I guess the U.S. companies, they don't do that per se, because if they get caught, there'd be consequences.
Listen,
Yeah,
everybody.
no,
go ahead, Tuxedo. Go ahead.
Oh,
Then
sorry.
go ahead.
I definitely wouldn't use TikTok regardless, of course. I wouldn't condone anyone use TikTok, but I honestly feel my data is safer in the Chinese government's hands than our government, because what's China going to do? You know, what are they going to do? Come knock on my door and throw me in jail because I said something here in the US? But yeah, I try to stay away from all the social medias, from all the big companies, because I know I'm saying that I'm on Twitter. But I don't use them personally for any personal stuff, because they're all just invasive in their own unique way, and they're all just egregious, and they don't care.
I think they'll send you a balloon,
Tuxedo.
Tux. They'll send you a balloon.
Tuxedo, how's it looking with coming down to Monerotopia, man? You think you're gonna get your passport?
I'm hoping so. It's going to be hit or miss whether I get it in time or not. You know, the U.S. government takes like forever. Now they're estimating expedited is like 9 to 11 weeks, but I had done mine like sooner. Yeah, it's crazy. It's insane. So I'm not going to be holding my breath, but it looks like I very well could get it in time. So we'll see.
All right, fingers crossed, man. Great to meet you down there. All right, guys, I'm going to close it out. I have some baby lamb chops waiting for me that were just grilled up in olive oil. I'm licking my lips over here. I'm going to squeeze some lemon on those, maybe a little oregano. All right, everybody. We will see you next week. Probably back to our normal time, Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Thanks, everybody, for jumping up here. Thank you, D. Martian, Tuxedo, Tony, Bawdy, bringing the wisdom as always. Greatly appreciated. Anybody that hasn't bought a ticket yet that's coming down, please do so, or just spread the word. We added the virtual tickets, Monerotopia.com, and yeah, just get the word out, guys. It's going to be a ton of amazing content. Great ways for people to come learn about Monero. All right, cheers, everybody. Good night. Have a great week.
21% until tomorrow. 21% using code Tony. Have a good night, guys.
No, it'll be 21% once we change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good night, guys.
All right. Cheers. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group. See you all next week.